Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest episode of A Drop of Knowledge, the podcast that we do here at Proteus Instruments. And today I am absolutely thrilled to welcome Claire Zambuni to the podcast. She is the founder of Future for Water and the UK River Summit, and we're very excited to have you here.
Hi, Hannah. It's really nice to be here. Thank you.
It's all right. So my sort of starting point for this is for those of you who are watching but might not know, what is Future for Water?
Well, Future for Water is the umbrella name of the charity. We're just over a year old as a registered charity, but I've been running the UK River Summit now for 3 years. So we've grown enormously in the past year, and we encompass many different projects now. One of them is Testing the Waters Consortium, which I am very privileged to work with you. Another one is the Future for Water Impact Awards, and that's celebrating cross-sector collaborative projects. And of course, our flagship event, the River Summit and Festival.
Yes, very exciting. So going back to the first River Summit, which looked a lot different from the ones you've run in the last few years, what was the motivation behind starting it?
Oh, good question. So basically, I ran a comms business for 15 years, and for the last few years, we focused on river health. We worked with industry, we worked with NGOs, and it was absolutely brilliant because I gained a really broad perspective of what was going on out there. But it also made me realize that there were so many people working in silos, and there was so much knowledge being shared, but it seemed to be in behind closed doors with the same people at a certain level. And I really wanted to create something that was inclusive, that brought joy, that brought creativity, that really facilitated constructive cross-sector collaborative conversations where people could make unlikely partnerships and meet unlikely partners as well. And actually, we've seen so many incredible projects that have springboarded from the summit now, and I'm hoping that the same happens again this year.
And was the first River Summit, I think you told me, was held in France?
Oh, yes, the first ever.
The very beginning.
2022, in the Pyrenees. And basically, it was the most joyous event. So we had a summit in the morning with French specialists. We had an Irish specialist. We had a couple of UK specialists as well. So they debated different issues and shared knowledge. And then we had a lovely lunch. And then we had an afternoon of workshops and creativity. We had troubadours, poets, musicians, even had a crochet workshop. I mean, it was a real sort of a real interesting melange of all sorts of things. And then we had a fire cook feast. All the vegetables had been grown in my garden and all the fruit. And it was a local chef. It was just incredible. And then we had a DJ. So it was a really wonderful, joyous, celebratory event. But everyone said to me, "Are you going to bring this back to the UK?" And I said, "I'd absolutely love to." And everybody said, "Well, just watch out. People are going to be a lot angrier." So, which actually was a great word of warning because they were.
Very, very passionate people on the UK river scene, that's for sure. I remember going to my first River Summit, which was 2 years ago, and I went with Rob, our MD, and we sort of had a little table, and I was on one of the first panels of the day, and I just remember thinking, this is just amazing, because there was such a diversity of people in the room, but also the creativity that was there. And it was one thing I was thinking that maybe as it gets bigger, that's the sort of element we're going to lose from it. But it's not, because last year it was even bigger with the River Guardian and all the blessings. And I mean, this year it's spreading over to 2 days, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a really important part to me. And I think what the River Summit and Festival is not a conference. It's not a technical industry event. It's actually, it takes quite a lot of courage for people to come. And I think, year one at Morden Hall, I know that some of the water company CEOs and the regulators were very nervous about being there, but actually, I think they also really appreciated having a very safe space that they could get feedback, get different points of view, meet people with different opinions. And actually, we've had confirmation from the EA and Ofwat and some water companies now for this year. And it's really important to me to have them in that conversation because, as we all know, solutions come from unexpected areas. And I think, it is a big focus. The creative side, I think that everyone comes to looking after their river, caring about their river from a very different perspective. And many people come in through film, through creativity, through painting, through being inspired by something which is visually impactful and the story behind it, because that artist will have a wonderful story behind that piece, whatever they've produced. So we've got a few wonderful creative surprises this year. And I'll keep those kind of under wraps at the moment. But because we've got 2 days, we've got a few more options. So I think obviously the Friday will be policy and advocacy and led, but with a lot of creative input as well. And this year we're adding on a film festival on the Friday night, so in the local cinema. So there's going to be also cast and crew Q&A with some of the directors and some of the people that have been in the films. And we've added a panel on the Friday. It's only a working title at the moment, but it's called The Art of Giving a Damn. And I really want to bring out how creativity has inspired community, joy, people who look after their rivers. I mean, someone like Rave On for the Avon, what a great example. Everyone, it just made me want to move to Bristol. I was like, this is amazing. What a collective. It's just incredible. And there's just so many people like that I've discovered. So I think with the 2 days, we'll have a lot of opportunity to celebrate that.
Yeah, for sure. No, that sounds so exciting. I'm really looking forward to this year, obviously. So originally, when you started doing the River Summit Festival, you also owned your own company for communications. But I know obviously last year that got shut down and you turned all your attentions onto the River Summit. Can you take us through that just a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I ran my business for 15 years and I really loved it. But towards the end, I felt a shift coming because I was mainly working from home for clients. And the summit was taking more and more of my time. But also I had a very sort of fundamental thing happen in my life. And I sadly lost my best friend and I was caring for her at the end. And it really made me evaluate everything in my life and how I wanted to spend my time and what was important and how I could make a difference. And I absolutely loved running the summit because I get to speak to the most incredible people from all walks of life. And actually, it's really growing into something impactful now. We're getting noticed. So the campaign that we launched recently last week, we've had responses from the regulatory bodies. It looks like we're going to have meetings. It looks like it could help affect policy change. Also watching some of the projects develop from that and just working creatively with all the different stakeholders to find something that works for them and bringing in new voices as well. So it's been a painful choice financially.
Yeah.
But it's been a wonderful life choice and I wouldn't have changed it for the world. And we've just won our first major grant. So that will really help support the charity going forward. And we've got another one in the pipeline. And our sponsors are growing as well now. So I'm really hopeful for the future. I think it was definitely a worthwhile investment of a year of my time and, looking forward to seeing what happens.
I like sort of the passion with which you approach it comes through in every aspect of the summit for me and what it's going on. It's that driving force behind it. And it is meaning that you've been finding people that have a similar force and want to come out and do it. I do have a bit of a question about how you wrangle politicians against policymakers and people who are advocating for rivers, because it must take a lot to convince some of them to come up and sit on a panel and potentially be faced with very awkward questions. and trying to get them to believe that the reason we're doing it is to make everything better. So what is that like?
It's really interesting. And I had a very classic example last year, actually, because the first panel of the day, which was going to be chaired by James Wallace from River Action, unfortunately, he had a family situation. So the actor Jim Murray stepped in. It was around water finance and governance, which was always going to be a very hotly debated subject.
Yeah.
And but we'd arranged the panel a couple of months in advance. Nothing had changed. Minister Emma Hardy had agreed to be on that panel. And the week before, she said that she would come, but she wouldn't be on the panel, but she would take questions from the panel. And the night before, I got an email saying that she wasn't prepared to take questions from the panel, but she was prepared to be interviewed. Now, that was a huge disappointment for me, because being in a position of, Minister for Water and accepting that role, you would think that they would be confident enough to debate those subjects, because we had Colin Skellett, who is, I think, the CEO of the YTL group, so Wessex Water, Professor Newn McGaughey, Ash Smith from WASP, Kat Hobbs from We Own It. I mean, it was the CEO of David Black, who was the CEO of Ofwat at the time. It was a hotly anticipated panel. So it doesn't always work out. I mean, the year before, we had a really interesting cross-party panel, and this year is looking amazing. And we're actually going to do it in a format a little bit like Question Time and call it Water Time.
Yeah, lovely.
And have a group of MPs and that. So I think it's finding also where those politicians and those policymakers may feel comfortable. And I've learned that, it's a fine balance between where you would love them to be in that debate, but also where they feel that they have something to offer and that they can talk confidently about it. Because I suppose, it's a hot topic. It's a hot electoral topic at the moment. We're coming up to the local elections. And I understand why they may be reticent, but also I think it's a wonderful opportunity. And as someone said to me after last year, they said, "Pet, I'm not quite sure how you made a protest feel like a garden party."
I love that. Yeah.
And I think actually, now it's, we've been running for 3 years. So I think people are becoming more confident with us. They're trusting us a little bit more. And also, it's lovely to see the same people coming back and also bringing in fresh faces as well. And, we've had wonderful support from the beginning with people like you. And I think this year's going to be really interesting. There will be a lot of policymakers. I think that's really important. But we're not going to lose sight of the other sides of things. And there's some things that I feel that are really important to start introducing around fashion and consumer choices and retail. And so, maybe the policymakers are going to feel more comfortable coming into different areas as well.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't know how on earth you balance that sort of atmosphere, but I do remember the cross-party panel from the first year I was at the summit and just thinking, oh, wow, you actually got these people in the room to sit down and just take questions. It's amazing.
I was as surprised as you, Hannah. I can tell you that. I really was.
But it does come back to this idea of it's the human factor. It's no matter who's to blame, use that word carefully at the end of the day, or what's going wrong or what it is. It always comes back to, and I've always thought that shines through with the summit, is it puts humans first.
Yeah, I feel really strongly about that, because people talk about data, regulation, all of these things, but the human factor is what puts the magic in it, what makes it work. And at the end of the day, it's always, the solutions always come from humans. And a lot of the destruction and devastation and everything else. But I think fundamentally, humans are driven to find solutions, not every human. And they have stories to tell. And you think about the communities, some of the communities that come to our Testing the Waters events, or the River Summit and how passionately they care about their local river and how deeply they understand it and know it, much more so than someone sitting in the Palace of Westminster. Or so they have so much important information to share and so many stories about why their river is important to them. And when they see adverse changes, they can report those really quickly. So I think storytelling is really important.
Yeah.
The human factor is fundamental. And I think joy is always our strategy, because people are always more engaged with joy than fear.
Yes.
And I think that it's really important to give people the opportunity to see hope and see things in a different way.
I was just thinking of that word exactly, hope. It's the whole idea of when you leave the summit and festival at the end of the day and everything's winding down, is you leave with that lovely warm feeling of, okay, but we're doing something. People want to change. And it's so much better than sometimes you do leave a conference and think it could have been interesting and a really good experience, but you think, oh God, we're all screwed, aren't we?
Well, I mean, it's a really interesting thing, because I do think there's hope. Yeah, I really hope that comes out with the event, because I think that positive change comes from positivity. And personally, I find it deeply disturbing scrolling through Instagram sometimes and just seeing these devastating headlines about water or about biodiversity. And it kind of makes me feel really useless and helpless.
Yeah.
But then you see someone that's doing something really interesting and innovative and kind of inclusive, and that gives you hope. It makes you feel that you can contribute something or get involved, or you've got something to learn from them.
No, I know the feeling, because I mean, I love David Attenborough and Planet Earth, the series, and Blue Planet and all the rest of it, but I did not watch the last series because I was like, I know how much is going to have changed since they even first started doing it because of all the ecosystem destruction. And it's a case of I really wanted to engage with it, but it was going to be too difficult. So I think hope is extremely important. And I was going to say, with hope, we couldn't get here without talking about testing the waters, which has grown beyond anything I thought it was in, well, almost a year. It's about 10 months now since we had that first session in, I've forgotten what to call it,
It's
workshop.
July the 8th.
July the 8th was the original Testing the Waters workshop, which was just, it was some sort of surreal experience, because we had these chairs arranged in a circle and we're thinking, people can come and go. And the room got packed out. There were people sitting on the floor. There were people squeezed in, standing room only. You had to do a sort of military operation to get a microphone round to talk to someone. And at the end of it, it was, okay, well, why don't we form a group of people who are passionate about rivers and passionate about change? And I was sort of, really keen to do it, but interested as to where it was going to go. So come on then, where have we ended up, if you want to give a quick rundown of what's been going on?
Oh my goodness, you should be giving a rundown of this as well. It's extraordinary. I mean, it's really extraordinary. How many members have we got now? We've got to have like 70, 80 members.
I was going to say 84 as of this morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 84 organic members who have come to us saying they're interested, want to be involved. We've got the monitoring manufacturers like you and Xylem and In Situ and Senai, and all working together up to a point. And then, all the citizen science groups, we've got eDNA. I mean, it's extraordinary. And actually, it's been so interesting that working with you, I think we've got very complementary skill sets, to sort of look at some of those events that we've run, and also with Alex. I mean,
Yes.
he is just incredible on the policy side. And it's really exciting to be able to be in a position now after 10 months to launch a campaign, have it acknowledged from DEFRA immediately as soon as it's sent, have the Environment Agency come back to me yesterday and say they've already had it shared with them multiple times. They love it.
Brilliant.
And, all of the different kind of feedback that we've had from that, it's absolutely brilliant. And I think again, that last face-to-face event that we had, it really brought out that human factor and the importance of it, because previously when I talked to people about monitoring, I went to industry events, it just became very jargon focused. And if you weren't in on the chat or in on the industry, it was very difficult to understand. And actually, there's so many different elements to it. And I think that we have a real opportunity to affect change, to affect policy. I'm really excited about where we're going to take this and what we're going to do with it. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
It blows my mind every time I think about it and where it started. But I think for me, the real big moment was especially sort of within industry, sort of going to people who technically are our competitors and saying, hey, this is what we're doing. Do you want to come along? And for them to turn around and be like, yeah, absolutely, we want to come along. And it's just having that appetite there to sort of crush through the everything else that's happening around us and just work towards it. That first event we did where we had all of industry turn up and we're like, no logoed clothing, we're just here as people who want to do better. And being able to sit in that room, talk with different water companies and regulators and some of the citizen scientists that were in the room, and then sit there and listen to the landowners, listening to that experience. And it reminds me of that, and the other event we did is the fact that everyone has a story about their local river, about what they did, where their data went, whether it's a positive one or a negative one. But it's, as you said earlier, it's something that if you were sitting in the House of Commons, looking at a report, you just wouldn't get that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I always think about, because it really was a testament to your courage as a business, because was that project that we did to provide the first ever live E. coli data to the public. And when I think back on that, you just did it. You didn't want anything. You wanted to collaborate. You didn't want a press release. You didn't want headlines. It was just you just wanted to get it out there, do something that was of benefit to the general public, which is what it's all about, because I think the general public get forgotten a lot of the time. And that was extraordinary. That really made me, that was an extraordinary moment in time for me. And then I'm so glad that now it's been taken up by Windsor River Watch and Wilson Phillips and his team, and they're being able to use it effectively and bring in even more technology, as well as all the citizen science that they do as well.
And that's the thing about finding the individual. I was going to say, and Wilson now might blush if he sees this online at some point, but it is the fact that if you wanted to do a big trial and test different technology against each other, industry-wise, that is something that takes paperwork and money and red tape and months to organise. Whereas Wilson is an concerned citizen. He said, well, my back garden goes onto the Thames. Why don't we put things in here and I'll tell you if they're any use to me as a citizen scientist? And that's just fantastic. And it's finding those people. I'm keen for us to sort of leave the south a little bit, and we've mentioned obviously running some more because we do have a lot of people up in the northeast who are involved and things like that. So keen to get out, see the rest of the country with it. But I'm very, very excited for the summit this year because we're going to have our own tent.
I know it's amazing. And actually I've got a trustees meeting next week, so hopefully we can tie all that down. I did a site visit last week. Looks brilliant, and actually there's quite a few different buildings where we could actually put things in if we need to weatherproof. And
brilliant.
But I think also as well, what I love about the events that we've run with Testing the Waters is that we're focused on positive outcomes. So you have a very healthy debate, talks, knowledge sharing in the morning, but then in the afternoon, very unlikely partners get together and work through problems together. And I would love to continue that kind of theme through it, because when people sit around a table together, they all want a positive outcome. And so I think it really really inspires them to think around things. And actually I can see that we've built quite strong relationships now with people from all from industry, from the technology companies, from citizen scientists, from NGOs. It's a really interesting combination, and I think you'd agree, the more the merrier, quite frankly. And you know, it would be nice to be funded at some point, but I think I think that we may be able to run a pilot that's funded quite soon. But it's been also very good to prove what we can achieve without being funded. I think, you know, that's
Yes.
not something that's going to last forever. So yeah, I think it's going to be watch this space. Very exciting indeed.
Yeah, and also, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think that in some ways starting off with just what funding you can sort of achieve, and that gives us the flexibility to go in all directions instead of being tied to one thing or another,
Yeah.
which I think a lot of people appreciate about the River Summit and the Testing the Waters group.
Yeah, I think we'll have to always keep that independence, because I think that agility and that independence of thought is what sets us apart. And yes, you know, we want industry at the table, but we have to be, I think, always, you know, keep an eye on transparency and make sure that we can hold our head up and challenge anyone in that room at any point in time when we need to.
Yeah. And on exciting things that are happening, obviously the Impact Award that you've set up.
Yeah. Oh, we've just had our first entries. It's very exciting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So basically, it was inspired by all of the different projects that were coming out of the UK River Summit and these kind of very unlikely partnerships that were made. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be lovely to be able to acknowledge that and showcase them? So we've got 4 judges, and I've put myself in there, so I'm sort of 4+1 really. But we've tried to keep them away from industry and sort of as independent as possible. We've got Matthew Wright, the broadcaster. He's been very involved with the Wild Trout Trust and Wild Fish. He's an avid angler and he really knows his stuff on that. Shosha Adi from ENS, obviously.
Yes.
She's been at every River Summit and she's just fantastic. She's chairing a brilliant panel this year.
Brilliant.
Very exciting. And Mike Blackmore, again, who's been there from the start. Absolutely brilliant. Wessex Rivers Trust, Rivers Restoration. And going back to our folk hero, Wilson Phillips.
Oh, really? He's coming on board as a judge. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's a really lovely mix of people.
Yeah. So if you know anyone, basically, there's the National Collaboration Award. There's going to be a runner-up. There's a Community Project Award and a Low Budget Award. We've put a £50 entry on for the collaborative project, but I've said if that's a barrier, let me know. But if industry are involved, then we do need to we do need to have something for admin because it costs a lot. We'll have the judges travel and everything else.
Yeah.
And then low budget, there's no fee to enter that. And the community project, depending on who the partners are, there's no fee. I think it's up to 5,000 or something like that. And then if they've got external funding, then there's the £50 entry fee. But applications on the website now, you know, the more the merrier. We've had some incredible entries. It's looking really strong. And everyone will have the chance to showcase what they're doing at the summit as well.
I was about to ask what we get to see, because I love looking at all the different projects and things that people come up with. From the very, very small to the very, very big, we're pretty good at coming up with interesting projects. What to say, we're less good as an industry as less good at translating them into working things, but it's an interesting space. And also for citizen scientists, that unity of seeing what others are up to, I think could be really valuable. So obviously a lot of work goes into forming this, getting the word out, getting people on board. What would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions you faced?
The biggest misconception, I think, is that people think the right people are already in the conversation. I just don't think they are. And I think the real impact comes from when you're brave enough to invite people who wouldn't normally be at an industry event. You know, many experts are not CEOs. You've got community scientists, artists, young people. I do think that there's a status obsession in the industry, and it protects existing hierarchies. I think that needs to change. I think it slows things down. I think when you look at the CEOs and many of the figureheads, especially with the water industries, they are playing to the tune of shareholders. They're not playing to the tune of the rivers, but a lot of the people that work for them, that's where the innovative thinking is happening, and those teams are really interesting, and those are the teams we really want to work closely with. We're really interested in them sharing their knowledge. I think, when you look at misconceptions, Channel 4's Dirty Business was basically a brilliant example. One of the most powerful pieces of journalism about sewage pollution. It wasn't driven by a well-resourced NGO or, a policymaker or a politician. It was driven by two retired professionals who noticed that their local river went brown, and you look at that is extraordinary. That it took their forensic approach and, to expose what the system had failed to do. And so I think that just shows you that we cannot think that we've got the right people in the conversation all the time. I'm always looking for new voices. I mean, what a joy to have people like you on panels, and obviously Shosha's established now, but having her sort of co-chair the panel the first year, absolutely wonderful. And seeing how her confidence has grown, my confidence has grown. But I think it's finding those important voices. I mean, I had something happened last year which really, really struck me. I invited someone to be on a panel that absolutely fitted his expertise, absolutely fitted it. And this organization, which will remain nameless, huge organization, had expressed an interest in being involved. So this seemed like the natural panel for him to be on. And one of his team came back to me and said, I'm sorry, if he's on any panel, it's going to be the CEO panel. And I thought, wow. Because number one, what is the CEO panel? And number two, surely if you've got an area of expertise and people are discussing that, surely that is more helpful for you to be on that panel. And it really, I mean, I think in the environmental world, you come across the patriarchy a lot, but it really made me think. It wasn't him that came back and said this, in fairness. It was one of his team, but I just let it go. And in the end, we didn't have anyone from that organization on anything. But I think, having the right people in the right room, we haven't got them yet, but we are getting there. And we do try and provide a variety of voices.
Yeah, for sure. So leading on from that, obviously got River Summit coming up in September, 2-day event, and a whole nother year of River Summit Future for Water and the Testing the Waters Consortium. What does success look like for you if we were to fast forward and say 1 year from now?
Definitely Testing the Waters Consortium, shaping policy decisions. Definitely building a strong community with Testing the Waters, having really, like you said, really want to go up north now a bit more. I mean, we have been south focused just because of resources. And basically, I know you and I looked at doing an event in Sheffield, but the cost just became exorbitant. So when we've got some more time and funding, then I think that needs to be our focus. I'd like to bring more of a creative element into the River Summit and Festival. This year, obviously, it's going to be featured, but I would like to build on that. I'd really like to be in a position where we're starting to train citizen scientists and starting to maybe offer an education program for them, using some of the existing members as mentors. I think that would be a really, really interesting project. I think that I'd like to see more collaborative projects, more positive outcomes coming from Summit this year. And it's something I'm going to be really aware of and really monitoring while putting the programme together. Definitely want more young people involved. I mean, I think we've got the Saturday this year, so that gives us a really big opportunity to do something that's going to attract more young people. But I think hearing Moksha speak last year, I mean, she really stole the show, you know. She
Yeah.
gets up on stage, I thought she was 9 years old or something, just incredible.
She was.
So, yes, so eloquent. And it would be great to find some, I'm never keen of the word ambassadors, but it would be great to find some more young people who really wanted to get involved, really wanted to be there to support. So I suppose that's what success would look like, you know, some good funding streams. I mean, a personal area of mine that I really want to expand is human behaviour. We touched on it last year.
Yeah.
We are doing a human behaviour workshop this year, but I'm actually just putting together a proposal for a very small pilot scheme around human behaviour. I think Ofwat, who launched the WEC, the Water Efficiency Campaign last year, they're talking about having a larger presence at this one this year, and I think the Water Efficiency Campaign will have launched by then. So that's an area that I'd really like to expand. But I know with these things that it's often organic the way it happens.
Yeah.
So I think it's a watch this space. But I'm pretty confident we can do something quite special and quite impactful with Testing the Waters Consortium, definitely.
No, it's just mind-blowing because I don't know what I thought was going to happen between last year's summit and the formation of the consortium and this year's, but this was not it. Sort of, it's amazing, especially having your driving presence behind it, saying, okay, well, let's put on an event, see what people are interested in, what do people want to come and talk about? And the feedback from the February Citizen Science Day, because one thing that has struck me all the times I've been sort of doing research is how you can have so many people in a catchment monitoring independently. They either are unaware of each other or just don't have that link. And the power from just being able to join things up and listen to other people's stories on what works and what doesn't, it's invaluable. Again, more than you'd get from an AI chatbot when you ask it a question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been a real eye-opener for me. I mean, in a really joyous way. It's been absolutely fantastic to meet everyone and hear all their different stories and what they're working on. I mean, the innovation out there is just incredible, but I get the sense that needs to be, you know, it needs to be given the human factor because I hear about a lot of funding for innovation projects that actually they get this huge amount of funding, but it doesn't actually go anywhere. And I really hope that we don't go down that line with Testing the Waters and that we always can show what we've done, who we've brought on board, the story behind it, translate it into very understandable English. So everybody feels that they can get involved if they want to, basically.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, that was a really interesting conversation. Obviously, if you want to know anything more about what's been discussed today, you can go to the Future for Water website. Is it Future for Water or is it River Summit?
futureforwater.org or theriversummit.com.
Yes, and my favourite thing about that is you can look back on the previous summits and see what we've been getting up to. Testing the Waters has its own space, and you'll find a page on the Impact Award. So, Claire, thank you so much for joining us. This has been lovely.
Oh, thanks so much, Hannah. It was an absolute joy. Thank you.
Thank you. And to everyone watching, we'll see you next time.